A million years ago, when I was in law school, there was a professor. Art law wasn't the field, this kind of coalesced, coherent field that it is today when I was studying back in the early 90s. And I went to interview, I just informally have a few conversations with the general counsels at the biggest museums in DC where we were living. And it was clear to me that, you know, their path was not going to be my path. They were all white collar law firm senior partners who had done their time in the trenches and then went to these museum jobs, and that just did not interest me. It was art law that interested me, not the inverse. And truly, even today, it is laws. The art law field is more maybe a little bit more mundane and prosaic sometimes than people might realize. Lots of contracts and whatnot. Anyway, I digress. But since I couldn't even take an art law class, it didn't exist. What I did take was an intellectual property or copyright course with a man named Peter Yazzie. And that was the closest that I came in my law school career to hitting on the issues that really, or the topics that really interested me at a fundamental or profound level. So Yazzie was certainly very influential in my earlier years. And in fact, he not so long ago partnered with the College Art Association to publish a handbook on copyright for academic art museums and for college and university faculty, which I found fascinating. But I would say that David Gordon, who was the director or the secretary was his formal title at the Royal Academy of Arts in London. And my boss when I was there was hugely influential. I got to sit at his elbow, quite literally. We shared, there were four of us, the secretary, the assistant secretary, and their two assistants. And we all sat in this great, beautiful 18th century grand room with ceilings painted by William Kent, designed by Lord Burlington. It was pretty phenomenal. So watching David, who had a background in business, he was at The Economist and then he was at ITV, I think. So he came to the museum field as I did, or was, from a very different place. And that to me was inspiring to watch him negotiate or navigate those channels. And a world that, again, was quite different from the director who studies from the undergraduate level all the way up and follows a curatorial track. I would also say that Paul Borowski, who's a great scholar of Renaissance art at the University of Virginia, recently retired, has been one of my great mentors and cheerleaders since we met in 2000. And the funny thing is, I actually never studied with Paul while I was at UVA. We just became friends, and he really has been incredibly supportive of my work, both as a scholar of the 18th century in Italy back when I had the time and space in my mind to think about Naples, and more recently, well, 10 years, 12 years in my work as a museum professional. So those are the three that really pop to mind in terms of mentors or role models. But it's a very, very collegial field. Most of my friends are museum directors. One of my friends with whom I actually share not a birthday as well as a birth year, we were born on the same day, same year, is Sharon Corwin, who is a friend, but also someone whom I admire tremendously. She served as the director of the Colby Museum of Art for, I think, 17 years and is the newly appointed president of the Terra Foundation in Chicago. So because it is such a collegial field, there's so much sharing. There's a lot of peer-to-peer mentoring too that I have really benefited from and enjoyed, especially through AAMD, the Association of Art Museum Directors.